under the pretext when they had to answer for it. They said the people were overgrazing the land and they had to go and mull the cattle. They had to go and cull them out, take out the cattle. And the man said, no, they didn't say that. Give them back their land. But he didn't do it. They took them, the colonial office told the farmers in Tanganyika, this is not again, that's worse still. They take the people somewhere else, give them some other land if that's the way it is. And they said yes, and they took them to what they said was better land, which it was not. And the people who were there, and the African has a special connection with the land and with nature, like the Indians of old. The land, the water, the heavens, the spirits, the ancestors, they have a direct connection with them. They humanize them, in fact, and deify them. And they came back. So when they came back, the Tanganyika government and the Twining sent the soldiers and the Askari. Askari is the name for black policeman, the black policeman. Askari, A-S-K-A-R-I, Askari. Then you hear that. And the Askari came, not only beat them up and chased them off, but they now, on the instructions, set the houses, the huts they were, set it on fire. So they couldn't come back. There was no way to come back to. Set it on fire. And believe it or not, those people came back, dug holes in the place and said, we live in the caves here. This is our land. And they kept up the pressures. And they advised them to take the case to court. We will defend them. We will take the case to court. And we took the case to court. And the court said, yes. Thousands of acres, thousands of square miles were taken from them. The court said they should be bound to settlements. Obviously, this is not something that should settle in court. But it was against the planters, because the planters had nothing to do with that. It is their land. They were invited to come here, and now you invited us here, now you're turning against us. So they had it to do with, not with the colonial office or the protectorate or the United Nations. They had to quarrel now with the administration of the United Nations, Twining and the British representative. And I remember he made about 4 or 5 trips to England. He wrote out speeches for them and told them who to meet, etc., etc. And he made such a great impression, and you can find the information if at that time you look up the newspapers, the English newspapers, especially the Manchester Guardian. And they said they wanted independence. They're now asking for independence. It's a different thing. It's a political thing. It's not just land, a political thing. And because he now had a political party, and he learned from the Jamaica scene what the political parties mean. We won all the seats in on election except one, which we didn't contest. And when he made that impression, asking for independence, it made such a great impression on the the United Nations Committee looking after the colonies, that Twining found it necessary to go himself personally to England, talk to his buddies, the House of Lords, etc. Stating that it's a wrong picture that Nyurere is giving you, completely wrong. That's not the position. He says they will get independence. We have promised them independence, but it will not happen during my lifetime. It's gradual. It won't happen during my lifetime. That was his statement, and his statement he came back. We will give them their independence when they are ready and fit for it. But he said that will not happen during our lifetime. I can tell you the date, so that was about 1945, I think. Around 45, the statement was made. Yes, 46, 45, 46, 47, around at the time. Not during my lifetime. And then, Nyurere still went on with his party, organizing his party, organizing his people, telling them what was happening, pursuing the causes, holding on to the court's decision. And the colonial office sent a directive that they were going to declare independence. And this was about 1963, I think, or 64, you find it out. This is around the same time as we did, a year or so different. 1963, 64, you'll find it out in the book. that they were going to grant independence then. I remember because I got a long cable from there. That time I had gone back to Jamaica to organize myself and put the children in school, etc. But I was going back to Africa. I hadn't finished my court case in Africa. I went to Africa to do work, and I was determined, after what had happened to Kenyatta and so on, as you can see in that case, that I was not going to leave until we could move those people from demoralizing the Africans. Men like Koinange and so on, who were real traditional leaders. They were now, this time, not listening to what the United Nations said, but they couldn't stop the question of independence. Said that they now had a lot of quarrels between the planters and the United Nations. A lot of quarrels. And the United Nations would send their commissions out there, and the Africans, the planters would oppose them. Planters would make strong oppositions, saying, we are here, this is our land, you sent us these letters, we were invited to come here, we came here, we have developed the land, all the development you see here is what we have done, it's not the Africans. We're going to stay here, and therefore they insisted. Well, at that time, and if you look up the books I tell you of Rita Hinden, I've given the name of Rita Hinden and Marjorie Pera, you'll find out in discussions that took place, you'll find some of the letters, then you'll find the actual acreages that were taken away in that book. And after we got our independence, they still was there, the planters were still in power. Clear. As in all these colonies who obviously the so-called independence, they were still in power. The man leading the planters was Colonel Grogan and Lord Delamere. Lord Delamere and General Grogan. They were the people leading the planters' party and opposing. There's a Delamere Avenue there, there's Colonel Grogan who owned maybe, I'm getting it out of my head, but it could well have been 200,000 acres, that sort of size they had for their big plants. And they drove off hundreds of thousands of Kikuyu and the various tribes. And
but this is in Kenya.
That is in Kenya, yes, no, I'm getting across. Those are Kenya. In Tanzania, they were quite different. When they had this independence, I got a long cable, about 62, 63, 64. Long cable from Nyurere saying, we have just got independence, will you come over for the celebration? We're going to have it on such and such a time. Invite me, so I come. And I went over and saw a peaceful transition and intuition.
How did you get it through? I mean, how did you get through the peaceful transition? They just at one point decided that
the planters in Tanganyika were different from the planters in Kenya. We have to make that distinction.
Okay.
The planters in Kenya were largely South Africans, Rhodesians, Boers, South Africans, Rhodesians, including Cecil Rhodes, and that type. And South African English and Rhodesians, those are the large anti-African group. Whereas the planters in Tanganyika were continentals, like the Greeks, Italians, the Greeks, the Italians, some Germans, and that's many French, but Italian, largely those people.
European.
Yes, Europeans who had a different relationship to their natives, a much more liberal and friendly relationship.